So literally, jihad is to strive, right? So when Adam alayhi salam was forbidden to go near that tree, and the Satan is coming, tree, don't worry about all these things, tree, right? So that stuff is jihad, right? You're holding back, right? You're having a struggle with your own desires. You want to taste it out. What's going on? What's the big deal about that tree, right? Or alcohol or pork or any other thing, right? So that's jihad, right? Being patient, fulfilling the rights of people. All that is also forms of jihad, right? Sometimes you're like angry at someone, right? And he or she cheated you, but you still keep that brotherhood or sisterhood. That's sort of also striving against your desires. Also, more importantly, it's striving it's a physical striving in the sense in the path of Allah. So you have all these various forms. So there's personal form, work, giving up smoking, alcohol if somebody is addicted to drugs, and so on and so forth. Dealing with grief, sadness, painful events, emotional traumas. Raising children, right? Giving up addictions, I already mentioned that. Obeying the law. So that's the personal aspects of it. Then there's the military aspect of it, right? So basically, what do you do when you have to use your life? Look, drones are new, right? People actually had to put their lives on the battlefield, right? We didn't have drones back then. But even if you see the point that at the end of the day, you're willing to sacrifice your life for the sake of Allah, right? So if you see a danger to your country, to your land, right? You're fighting against it. You're speaking against an unjust ruler, trying to bring, rectification when it's permissible. And it has a whole bunch of guidelines. You don't individually go and start a jihad. It has to be done in a structured fashion, in a military fashion. There's a leader, there's an assigned leader. Either you're at peace and you have peace agreements with nations and tribes, or there's a violation of peace, and then either they have advanced or you're doing it for defense, right? So it has a whole bunch of rules around it. It's not something, just like, when I'm going to pray, I'm not going to pray this way. I'm going to pray towards Mecca, right? I'm not going to start praying right now because it's not time for prayer yet, I think, right? I can't pray my night prayer right now. So there's rules around it. So likewise, the jihad also has a lot of rules and guidelines around it. We will see some of those here that would deal with a lot of misconceptions. So we talked about that. There's verses in Quran that talk about it. If it's a military verse, guided towards people who are in the battlefield, it wouldn't make sense for God to say, just chill. Drop your weapons. It's going to be, incitement and encouragement. When you're in a football field or soccer field, you're encouraging your team. You don't tell them to sit down and relax and have Pepsi and Coke, right? But there are verses for peacetime, not to transgress, as we will see. There you go. So these are from the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ. Don't cut a tree, right? Environmentally green, we had it back then. Don't kill a child. Don't kill old people. Don't destroy a temple or a church. Don't destroy a building. Don't kill those who have surrendered. If there's no fight, don't go and blow up people who are living peacefully in a country. Don't kill who run away. Don't kill a woman. Don't kill a sick person, so on and so forth, right? So it has a lot of rules around it. It's not as chaotic as it may sound. So right now, any questions, concerns, comments, praises, criticisms?
I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the Islamic perspective on evil and suffering.
Okay, good.
Why humans commit evil.
Right. So God has a verse about that in Quran. After water. So God says in Quran, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. Okay, so you gotta get an assistant. I knew that, but I'm just checking. No, so basically God says that the corruption has appeared on earth, right, as well as sea, because of what the hands of men have earned, right, our own doings. Why? So that they may return. That's one understanding. From a different understanding, look, at the end of the day, this life is temporary, right? So I am made up of skins and bones and muscle, and you can go, skeleton, whatever, right? But essentially, I'm a soul, right? And I still am a soul when I was young. I will still be a soul when I would be old, when my body is strong, when my body is not strong. So what we are talking about, all this corruption and all that sort of stuff, it only affects the bones and the skins, right? What is essentially important is the afterlife, right? The paradise that we came out from, right? And to show it to this Satan that we will be grateful to our Lord even though you're trying hard. And to take this time and get back to Allah. So to be honest, death is a new beginning itself, right? So if you have that perspective of this afterlife being so long and eternal, then these 40, 30, 60, 70, 80 years does not mean much. So that's a relative comparison. Second thing, anybody who is basically touched by those things, right? So just like how human beings were created and our existence and our free will gives us an understanding of the merciful and forgiving nature of God, the justice of God. Likewise, when those events happen, like a tornado or a hurricane or earthquake and so on and so forth, this is one of the 5 or 3 or 4 things. It's punishment for the evildoers. It's a lessons for others to wake up and submit. It's an opportunity for the ones who are not affected to show their grace and mercy and kindness and to spend their time, resources, effort, and wealth to help the ones who have been affected, right? And by doing that, they sacrifice the worldly possessions to gain closeness to God. And at the end of the day, no one would be mistreated, no one would be committed injustice against. So in any scenario, you would have innocent people. They're innocent, good for them. They go to Allah, they're in paradise, happy ending. The ones who are transgressing, their destination, we already saw what their destination would be, unless they're forgiven, if they deserve forgiveness. And the third thing, for the ones who are alive and healthy and able, for them to now not be greedy and miserly, but to help. And for the rest of the people to realize that even though we have all these modern systems and electricity and all that sort of stuff, how weak and humble we are in front of God. Does that answer? Any challenge?
Is it Islam for there to be a caliphate in a sense, either political or spiritual?
Right. Yeah. So essentially, the leadership system as defined by Islam is that yes, you would have one leader, right, in an ideal world, which does not exist today, right? And everybody would have to agree to it. And it existed in parts of the history, but it does not exist right now. Right now, there's no established caliphate that Muslims agree on. So right now, because of that, it's individual countries as individual nations.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate all the work you did in putting this together. Thank you so much for sharing. While I've been in Toronto, I've talked with a lot of people about what they believe religion-wise, and it seems like a lot of people have believed that there's one God, and it doesn't matter if you're from Christianity or Islam or from Hinduism or Sikh, that it's all kind of the same God. Mm-hmm. Is that what you believe? Or it sounds like you believe it.
Okay, I'm gonna ignore the part, is that what you believe?
Okay.
Because that's what I was trying to show no.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna answer the question without that. Okay, great. So no, definitely that's not what I believe. That would not be wise to believe that. And let's see why, right? Do we believe that about anybody else, right? Your school, there's a criteria for how you're going to get a 4.0 GPA versus a 2.0, right? Your work, there's a criteria for who are superstar A players who are going to get bonuses and then promoted to being a general manager, and the people who won't be, right? So everybody has a criteria. Your home, your household, your family has a criteria, right? So how would it be wise for God to create us and just say, okay, do whatever you want, right? Even, and as we saw from the basic, the understanding is that we realize that we don't know. And if you don't know, then you submit. You go to your professor, say, teach me because I don't know, right? Teach me from your experience because I don't know. I don't know how to make this phone, so I'm going to work for Google or Apple and be part of the team to make the phone, right? So likewise, we ask God for guidance because he knows and we don't know, right? And how can he have paradise and hellfire and have no criteria for who will end up there and who will not? And then how do you justify, because obviously you have extremes, right? 100% evil, most of us can agree that this is an evil person. What about that person versus somebody who is not evil, right? So that would not be a just God to stand us down here and have no criteria and do whatever you want.
And my follow-up question, which you just answered, was like, how do you combat like people thinking that? But like you're saying, that's
exactly.
a good way to like.
Yeah, that's very important actually. Everything, like the main reason is not debates. The main thing is this. Right? This. You already have that operating system that would recognize the truth versus the falsehood, right? If you go back to it and you call out to Allah that guide me to the right knowledge, so I have two options. You open my heart to the thing that is from you and take me away from what is not from you, Allah will. Because you are sincerely seeking the truth, he will give you the truth. So everybody has that compass to find the truth and that. It's just that, is it going to be this or that? Mm-hmm.
So if everyone has the operating system in them and we have a planet with billions of people, obviously not all of them are Muslim, is there a responsibility on Muslims to
Absolutely.
help bring, and what is that responsibility? What does that look like?
Yeah, the responsibility looks like to do your best, right? Is to reach out, is to invite people, talk, write, advertise, flyer, go to people, talk to people. Do basically based on what your own abilities are, right? And that applies for everything else as well, right? So because the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the last prophet, right? From that is the responsibility of his followers to spread the message. But as we said earlier, everybody would get a chance and would be tested on equal grounds without any ignorance. So either it will be in this world by message coming to people, or on the day of judgment when it will come to them. Go ahead.
I have some Muslim friends that I cook for, and they express because I know that you have to eat halal, but I don't exactly know what that is, and you don't have to go very detailed with it. But I was kind of wondering what.
Okay, so a good thing would be just catch a fish for them and then cook it without alcohol. That would be al-halal. So, okay, good question. So basically, when it is halal means what is permissible, right? So pork obviously is not permissible, right? So now from chicken and beef is all type of chicken. Do you just go a chicken, grab it and eat it? No. So there's a proper way that you take the life of that chicken or that cow in a proper way, under a proper guidance of firstly doing it in the name of God because he owns the chickens and the cows and we don't. So we take it from his permission. B, there are certain guidelines that make it least painful for them, right? So you're not trying to make it more painful for them, harsh for them, and you do it under those guidelines, and that meat then becomes permissible. If it's a dead cow, you're not permissible to eat a dead cow or chicken. So basically, such guidelines which make a meat permissible versus impermissible. But in general, halal means everything that is permissible to do or eat or consume.
Thank you.
I have a question. In with the prophets that came before the Prophet Muhammad, like Moses or Jesus or another one, and in the Quran it mentions the before books, and then you also mentioned other sayings of the Prophet, and then his example.
Mm-hmm.
How are each of those weighed for Islam?
Okay, great question. So everything from the previous religions, right, that we needed to know has been preserved in Quran, right? Now, so that's one thing, in Quran or in the sayings of the Prophet Muhammad, right? So let's talk about that. So Quran is basically agreed upon book, and it's agreed upon verses, that these are all verses that God spoke, right? So that's agreed upon. Then there are many sayings that are attributed to the prophet. The prophet said this, the prophet said this, the prophet did this. All these are attributions, right? So you go into the sciences of that, and people have done already the scholarly work on that, and they have classified those attribution based on the level of confidence that you have in that attribution, right? Obviously, if something has been attributed to him from like thousands of different people, that's much more stronger than it's something attributed to him from one person, right? And then you go back to see, okay, what was the level of that person, intelligence, memory, and so on and so forth, and trustworthiness. So those are the sayings, and each saying has a classification on confidence level. As for the previous books, right? So present day Bible. So if you come and say, the Bible says this, right? If it's not because a lot of Bible can also be interpreted in both ways, right? So I can have my own interpretation of the same text, because now we are on English text anyways, which is not the original, and so on and so forth. So our stance on that is, if it does not go clearly against Islam, we do not deny it and we do not accept it, because we don't know which part of the Bibles are preserved from the originals and which part of the Bibles are not preserved from the originals. But whatever we need to do, the whole law is compiled and available to us. So it's not that we don't need to go to Bible, right? Because everything we need to know about Allah has been preserved. Everything we need to know about Jesus has been preserved. Everything we need to know about Moses has been preserved, and so on and so forth. Make sense? Okay, so we'll end here, and basically we'll call the call to prayer, and we'll make wudu, which is ablution, getting ready for the prayers. Then we'll pray, and then you guys can have some snacks and hang out for a bit, and we'll conclude. Thank you all for coming. May God make it an act of worship, an act for Him to seek and learn about Him, and bless you all with the true guidance and steadfastness on that guidance.